Okay, we're doing Carl Jung's chart. And we're focusing on 1912 when he broke away from studying with Freud after several years of studying with Freud, when he made the breakaway from him. So this is something in hindsight, the chart in hindsight. So it's in a way easier to work with than projecting ahead, but it allows room to interpret and we begin to see what's happening, what happened in his life against the background of the transits. I mean, this is so useful if you're going to write a biography. How could you do a biography without doing the Saturn graph for a lifetime and without having 8-year graphs for specific times? You would just you could put your own take on something without having a standard to go against. There's one other thing I wanted to see here. Okay, I'll get this one when we start on the transits. Okay. So here's this chart, and I have to say, it's since when we did the natal chart, since that time, we've rewritten the pattern types have been edited and rewritten and correct and made more specific and clear, and Jung's pattern type has changed. I had always referred to him as a splay type with the two empty areas. Looking at, you see the two empty areas in the chart. However, since neither of these two empty areas are actually a square, see, this begins because the original pattern types were done by the houses without looking at exact aspects, just by house placements, and determined them. When we put it to signs, it allowed for more accurate determination. But this was one that was an interesting surprise. It's because there's not an empty square, it can't be a seesaw, or it can't be a splay. So it ends up being a splash chart. So instead of just being two sides of falling back and forth between two sides, between perhaps the conscious and the unconscious, here you have someone who has a tendency to be in relationship to everyone, to be in touch with many different directions, and with perhaps the collective unconscious in everyone. It has a much more openness or inclusiveness in it. So I found that fairly insightful. It's just a change from the first type. I mean, when you're going from seesaw to splay, there's not a lot of difference, except that display usually has two seesaws, and suddenly it can go either way and it becomes display. The splash is when planets are all around. There can be a couple empty areas, but if one of them isn't a square, it can't graduate or it can't move to be the seesaw or display. So it ends up being a splash. So on reflecting on it, so that fits. That worked all right for my conception of it. His phase of the moon, it's a waning half moon phase. So this moon is the moon is coming back to the sun. It's in that moon. It's the darkness increasing half of the cycle. So the need to belong or need to be involved or to be meaningful and find meaning or security in others, or in that increasing sense of belonging. Okay. Sun sign Leo, moon sign Taurus, ascendant sign Aquarius. So his rigidity, his consistency, his tenacity was from his sun, moon, or ascendant sign. It's all fixed. You meet him, he's who he is. He doesn't look differently. He has his own way of being. He's consistent at what he's doing all the way along. That's his style. And it's interesting between being the Leo, the big kid that wants the attention, or person who needs the attention, and the Taurus moon who needs to have security or needs to feel secure and grounded. and the Aquarius rising, which has to know why they feel secure or not secure, why they're appreciated or not appreciated. So you see the drive to the need to have security. You need to understand it with the moon, same with Pluto, but we'll get to that. And then the sun in Leo, the sun's in the 7th house of relationships. You need to be known or proud in relationships, or relationships are important, and to be the best. So being a counselor, being able to know about relationships, talk about that's a really strong connection. And then with the moon in the Taurus in the 3rd house with conjunct Pluto, the fear of the mother. His mother had psychic flashes, or they would call it breakdowns, and he was a little bit afraid of his mother growing up. But his need to understand these things was inherent in his Taurus moon in a practical way. It's in the 3rd house. So learning about and physically remembering and having very tactile memories. So these are just a couple of things, but really we're looking at the things outstanding. It's all the fixed quality. It's fire, earth, and air. You don't see sympathy, you don't see water. Okay, you don't get the sympathy from the moon. His nature is more rational and dry rather than sympathetic. Okay, now that's first impressions, our main themes. When we get down to the a little bit. Again, 4 points Taurus, I have 3 points Leo, I will, 2 points I feel. That's Mercury, Venus, and Cancer. So there's sympathy, there's feeling and sympathy there. And the other, I balance, I desire, understand. 1 point, I know this is 2 Aquarius, is an Aquarius. So I have to have this. I will do this. I know what I have to do, and I know what I feel like. So it's just playing with those. When you see daylight increasing, darkness increasing, there's a small 8 darkness increasing to 6 daylight increasing. So there's a tendency to be moving towards being responsive, towards being meaningful to others a little more than being oneself, moving for oneself or in context to others. You have daylight is greater 9, darkness is greater 9. So there's still an intensity to do his own thing. I'm me. This is how I am. This is I'm going to be. This is Leo, But it's also with the other planets. The Taurus moon. They're all in the daylight, the spring and summer, daylight greater side. So there's a fairly strong sense of who he is, more than who someone else is. So if something would happen to him, good. That's good. If something would happen bad, he would have to understand it. It's still important. Okay, and again, this divides up where you see spring, 2 winters, 4 spring, 5 summer, 3 autumn. So summer and spring are the daylight greater signs are the most predominant here. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Again, just like we saw with the sun, moon, ascendant. 3 cardinal, 1 mutable, not very adaptable. 10 fixed. Incredibly tenacious and determined. Yeah, then fire, water, earth, fairly even. 4 fire, 3 air, 4 earth, 3 water. So there's not, and then when we saw the sun, moon, and ascendant, we didn't see the water, but here it's there as much as the communication. So it's a fairly even balance. Masculine, feminine, 7 and 7 between projecting and reflecting, even balance. The rulerships, the sun rules 3 points, moon 2, Mercury, it doesn't rule anything. Venus rules 5 points, Mars 1, Jupiter 1, Saturn 2. So if his emotions are good, if he's liking himself, his good feelings are going to guide and affect 5 planets. 5 points. Moon counts for 2. But like if he's not feeling good, if he's having envies or one of the difficult Venus vices, envy, vanity, whatever, all these things come, they'll have a significant effect on 5 planets and on his behavior more than anything else. So in terms of the guidelines of what's guiding him, it's Venus. even that puts the priority on his moon. Like his sun's in the sign it rules, so it's strong in its own way. And Saturn's in the sign it's strong in its own way. But Venus is in the moon sign, ruled by the moon, but the moon is ruled by the Venus. So this need to be appreciated, to be liked, to be appreciated, or perhaps at times to overindulge or be overappreciated. But it's certainly a strong factor. When it's positive, it'll be very positive. When it's negative, it'll have a profound effect on other things. So being liked and not being liked, and his response to that, these are part of these things. So when we look at the houses, up here, we'll just see, I'm so big that we can't see the signs. So, okay, and there's the houses. Okay, so with the houses, it's expression, third house, duty, partnership, 3. So expression and partnership are 2 high-end. Communication, third house, expressing himself, and about relationships. Well, that kind of fits for a psychologist. 6 rising, 6 setting, balance, 5 above, 7 below. So slightly more different concern about his subjective being than the objective world. But in the signs, there's the attitude of needing to belong. It was more the I, me, the daylight greater than the night, than the I'm important. I want to belong on my terms. And here, my subjective changes are a little more significant than my social functional ones. My lifestyle becomes fairly more important than my status. So it's kind of interesting, I think, because once he was building up to the peak of his status and getting known, he built a tower so he had a little place that he could be alone in, and wanted to and worked to have his security. So even in the success, it really did need that below the horizon foundation. It's funny that it was a tower that he built to give his security so he could be above the horizon. He can be seeing a lot, but he's still in his personal, private world. Okay. Intuition, feeling, sensation, thinking. 5 intuition, 1 thinking, 4 sensation or sensibility, and 2 feeling. So again, the above, the rising, and it's rising and setting. 5, the sensation and the intuition, they kind of, 2 things contrast each other. The first quadrant, first 3 houses, and the 9th, 8th, and 7th houses, but they're both 5 and 4. And I think the intuition is a primary factor in his insights and teachings. It probably wouldn't have got the synchronicity and other perceptions of the collective unconscious were he not intuitive of that sort. One of the significant differences between he and Jung, he and Freud, I mean. So with the angular, succeeding, cadent, when you saw that in the signs, there was 10 fixed, only 1 mutable. In the houses, when it comes to circumstances, he had 4 points 4 points angular to make things happen, to being something, 3 points succeedent, and 5 points cadent. So being 3 points having, and 5 points on understanding or learning and adapting. So the ability to study and learn and see things differently, that was strongly there. To look at things from different perspectives, that was there. Fire, water, air, earth. In the houses, he has 7 air, 3 earth. Water and fire are not the strongest, whereas in the signs, the fire and earth were the strongest. In the houses, the air and the earth are the strongest, but the air significantly. So the ability to communicate and express himself, talk about relationships, interreactions between people, what people are thinking, what he's thinking. These are important primary factors in his natal chart. Okay.